Imagine you are 90 years old. You are sitting in a chair by a window and someone hands you a single sheet of paper. On it is a list, written by you, of everything you wish you had done. Not everything you did wrong, everything you never even tried. Most people assume that list will be full of mistakes. It almost never is. It is full of silence. Why does regret work this way? Why does failing hurt so much less, in the long run, than never trying at all? Psychologist Thomas Gilovich spent years studying exactly this, comparing regrets over actions taken versus actions never taken. In the short term, people regret their mistakes more sharply. A bad decision stings immediately, but give it time, months, years, decades, and the pattern flips completely. Long-term regret is dominated overwhelmingly by inaction, the thing you didn't say, the trip you didn't take, the risk you talked yourself out of. Why would your brain betray you like this? Here is where it gets stranger. When you fail at something you actually tried, your brain treats the outcome as fixed. It happened. It is finished. Even a painful ending can eventually be closed and filed away. But when you never try something, your brain has no ending to file. The door stays open forever. And an open door is far more powerful than a closed one, because your imagination is free to walk through it again and again. This is why the job you didn't apply for haunts you more than the job you applied for and lost. Failure closes a loop. Inaction leaves it open, and open loops are exhausting to carry. Nobody consciously chooses regret. It happens through 1,000 reasonable-sounding excuses. Not the right time. Too risky right now. Maybe next year. Stacked together over decades, they become a quiet architecture of absence. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman, working with Amos Tversky, found part of the reason why. Their research on loss aversion showed that people feel the pain of a potential loss roughly twice as intensely as the pleasure of an equivalent gain. So when you're deciding whether to take a risk, your brain isn't weighing it evenly. It tilts everything towards safety, because avoiding a loss feels more urgent than reaching for a gain, even when the odds favor you. This bias is brilliant for avoiding physical danger. It is terrible for building a meaningful life, because most meaningful things require risking something to gain something. So what happens to the people who say yes anyway? This connects to something psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect, first noticed in the 1920s. People remember unfinished tasks far more vividly than finished ones, because the mind treats anything incomplete as still active, still demanding attention. Regret over inaction behaves exactly like an unfinished task. It never gets marked complete because it was never started. Even when a risk fails, the person who took it usually recovers and reframes the experience, often finding growth inside the very thing that hurt. But the person who never took the risk has no equivalent story. There's no lesson to extract from a door you never opened. There's only the door, still sitting there, decades later, closed and untouched. An Australian palliative care nurse named Bronnie Ware spent years with patients in their final weeks, recording what they said as they looked back. Almost nobody said they wished they'd worked more or achieved more. They wished they had let themselves be happier. They wished they'd stayed in touch with friends. They wished they'd had the courage to live a life true to themselves instead of the one others expected. Almost nobody at the very end regretted a specific failure. The regrets were about silence, about permission never given, about doors simply never approached. So here is the exercise underneath everything. Picture yourself decades from now looking back at today, not judging your failures. Failures rarely make the list. Instead, notice the doors you're standing in front of right now, the ones you keep almost opening and then don't, the conversation you keep almost starting, the idea you keep almost pursuing. None of this means every risk should be taken recklessly. It's an argument for noticing when caution has quietly become permanent, when maybe next year has been said so many times it has effectively become never. 90-year-old you is not waiting to hear about your mistakes. Mistakes close on their own. 90-year-old you is waiting to find out whether you open the door. Imagine you are 90 years old, sitting in a chair by a window, and someone hands you that same sheet of paper. This time, before you write anything down, ask yourself which doors are still open in front of you right now today while you are still the one holding the handle.